Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to week number 2 of Good Call, Bad Call, a brand new podcast in the ANZ region for Heroes of the Storm, tackling all the different issues and all the different surroundings of what is happening in the very first season of our own HGC Premier Division. Much the same as last week, there's obviously a lot to talk about, and the structure remains pretty much unchanged in the same capacity, where we are going to be talking about the previous week's results, any upsets, any interesting talking points, then covering some of the interesting replays. What are the defining moments, what allowed that team to get a win, find the momentum, and ultimately secure victory in the series as a whole. Much the same as well, power rankings. Where do these teams fit into the grand scheme of things? The performance obviously dictates if they go up, if they go down, or if they stay the same. And then to close out the show, we're going to be touching base as to what is to be expected in week number 3, what us on the panel ourselves have to make of it. And as always, I am led by some fantastic people. My name is Skimmy, and I do have Morton and Strider on the screen with me, lads. Back here for week number 2. The inception has already happened. Strider, how does it feel to be back for the second time on camera, looking as beautiful as ever, mate?
Feels good, man. I mean, I'm always excited to have you two boys here. Let's get into another big episode.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Let's make this one a good one, Morton?
Yeah, we'll try our best to make it entertaining. But yeah, I'm excited for the second episode of our beautiful podcast. Let's go, boys.
Second episode is what I like to hear. Let's just jump into it, right? The nitty-gritty of it already. Obviously, a massive, massive upset between Downfall and Crimson. Downfall claiming the 2-0 victory in what we all predicted to be a clean sweep for the lads in Crimson. But if we break it down to a nitty level, we were discussing briefly off air about the fact that Crimson are a team in that top 3 section where they are going around Outlaws, going around Nekonomia. You see there?
You went there. You almost.
Stump go to a Penta, the Nekonomia. Nomia, Outlaws, Crimson, they are bonding together. They are on their own little wavelength, right? Doing their own certain thing. And when they came up against Downfall, it was almost like their meta just came crumbling down because the reaction, Morton, was just, we know what you want. We'll let you have that, but we've got something better to beat it.
Yeah, pretty much. I think Downfall went in, nothing to lose, fully prepared. Their one game of the week. They came out with all their comfort picks, and basically Crimson just weren't ready for them. They didn't respect the Stukovs. We saw Konya flop out a Junkrat pick. And they just caught Crimson off guard. They were running these I think they had quite static drafts that weren't they just should be playing basic drafts at this point, I think, against the lower teams. But yeah, Downfall caught them off guard, took the two off them, which no one expected to happen.
Then also we went into the second series on the night. Crimson having a lot of love on Tuesday night with the broadcast. Crimson up against Outlaws. It was a 2-1 for Crimson, so obviously the mental fortitude was there for them to reset and bounce back and net a win against what I would argue is a much more familiar meta for them. But it wasn't the clean ace I'm sure they were hoping for. This series, Crimson, this series for you, Strider, I mean, what did you really take away from it?
I think they're more prepared for Outlaws. I think the biggest problem we found with that Downfall game, at least, is they weren't prepared for what Downfall had to bring. And Outlaws, they were. So a lot cleaner. They played smarter. They drafted better. And it showed towards the games, 2-1. It could have been a 2-1 either way. It could have been a 2-0 Crimson's favour. But they got the win, if not the important one. I still think that Downfall probably dropped some games to some mid-tier or, up-tier Namir Outlaws teams. So the Outlaws win was probably the most important one, but obviously it still hurts to lose, right?
I think the Downfall storyline is really going to be one of much scrutiny going forward in these leagues as to who can actually challenge. Obviously, they've taken down Crimson so far. Can they compete and continue that momentum going forward up against Outlaws, up against Nomia, which we'll touch base on a little bit later. But carrying on this hype train, Morton, between Outlaws, or for Outlaws, I should really say, Outlaws on the second night, on Thursday, went against Rich Gang. The scoreline reflects a 2-1, but a bit of a controversial 2-1, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, this game was bloody close. Honestly, that third game could have gone either way. And we saw Rich Gang, they didn't use their second ban, and Outlaws got that late pick Tyrael, which the Tyrael honestly carried, which a lot of people called. Like, you could see in Twitch chat, like, we saw Robodobber, who's moved to EU, he's like, Tyrael is going to carry this game. And, that's literally what happened. Like, Outlaws could not, Rich Gang could not get through all the sustain that Tyrael provided, sank, the shields. That game could have gone either way. Really good to see Rich Gang show up on the day. Outlaws maybe didn't play as well as they wanted to, but they got the win in the end.
I think for me, a very interesting discussion point, as we've seen, as these weeks have already progressed so far, so early on, is the respecting of the bans towards certain players. Now, in that series alone that we just mentioned, twice Outlaws banned away Thesh's Tracer, which we know he is excellent at. We know that Rich Gang, as a unit, kind of put a lot of resources into him to actually do his job at the finest level. I think we divert our attention back to the very first series of the night between Crimson and Downfall. We've talked about Shrek and how mechanically gifted he is and how he's able to get to GM as a support exclusive player. Strider, what do you think about the idea of just teams targeting the Stukov? Because he is picking it religiously, whether first pick or not.
I mean, as if the meta stays the same, at least moving forward, I would just ban it for the sake of it. I have a big game this week. I believe they play Namir at some stage, and in my eyes, ban the Stukov. Why the hell not? Why have another problem that you have to deal with when you can literally remove that? I think if they don't get Stukov against Crimson probably win those games. So that was probably the deciding factor. I think if you watched the games, you saw that Crimson stayed with them even though they were forts down on macro play. It was just those team fights that Stukov excelled at, and it showed that Shrek is, what do you get to, number 2 GM and ANZ, which is huge. That's right. A high number. And he did that off playing, I think, Stukov and Lucio. So he's good.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to see definitely a priority of, okay, this is a meta as such, and this is a meta that is then replicated on a global stage. And I think if I was to try and think outside the box there, from my experience talking with Fat94 from his time at these international lands, he says, yes, we learn all these things. We can scrim against some of the best teams in the world. But when we come back home to ANZ, a lot of this isn't played. It isn't utilized. It's knowledge that ends up getting compartmentalized because it's like, yes, we could use it, but no team's actually going to reactively play against it or really know how to draft against it. And in some case, us being the better team almost acts like a hindrance. So it's interesting to see that. And I mean, I suppose the final talking point of that week for me of a great interest was the Nomia versus Aztec matchup. Nomia, they did secure the 2-0 win, still continuing their absolute dominant streak and really sort of affirming themselves as, hey, last year we got taken out by Darksided. We got these 2 new players, which we said at the time were going to be these strong links to replace the likes of Arcana and Robodoba. But we now want to make sure that this statement actually really, I suppose, sits pretty for you, Morton.
Yeah, I think everyone expected the 2-0 against Aztec. Earlier in the week, we did see them play QM Warriors, and they looked a bit shaky, honestly. If you're looking shaky against the likes of QM Warriors, who are one of the lower-ranked teams, I don't really see how you're going to contest the big dogs at number 1. So, yeah, no surprises there, really.
The big Dolphins?
Yeah, the big Dolphins,
I'd say. I like it. Dogs, not Dolphins. Wait, no. Yeah. Dolphins, not dogs. It's trending. I've seen it.
Yeah.
Righty, lads. Well, that does it for week 2's results. Let's jump now into the power rankings and see how our opinions have changed as week 2 and then transitions into week 3. There we go. So week number 2's power rankings on your screen right now. The top 3 remains unchanged as well as the bottom 2, but I suppose the buoyancy, the turbulence between 4, 5, and 6 is really what we're going to be sharply keeping our eyes onto. And I mean, even between all 3 of us, we've got very different expectations. I mean, Strider, you were the first member to really call Downfall as that 4th spot team. What was it about their week 1 performance that allowed you to sort of come to that decision?
To be honest, in the preseason when Morton and I were actually talking about pairings, I think I mentioned it last week, I had Downfall quite high. I know week 1 we all had them a lot lower after kind of seeing them at the end of the preseason, but they played well last week and I expected big things. I mean, I really didn't expect them to be Crimson, right? But I expect them to be in that top echelon of teams. And then they even turned up even more than I expected. So
sure.
That's awesome. I did see Shrek as kind of a outlier, and he showed why this week.
Morton, anything to add? I mean, obviously, and in that 4th spot siege, you've gone for Rich Gang, I've gone for Aztec, so we're very divided when it comes to that 4th spot to try and almost act as the gatekeeper between the top side of the league and the bottom side of the league. For you, Rich Gang, what really separates them from a team like Aztec and Downfall?
Rich Gang, I think they've got really I guess you'd say gifted players. I think they're really good mechanically. They don't really put in as much effort as other players and teams I see at this point. So at the moment, I could see Rich Gang comfortably beating Aztec. But in a couple months, if Aztec have been scrimming hard, putting in the hard yards, while Rich Gang have kind of been sitting on their hands, kind of relying on their current skill, then I think Rich Gang take them out comfortably right now. In a few months, Aztec will take them, I think. But yeah.
I think to follow your point, before you become a laughing fit that turns into a cough that really needs you to get your little medi band and ask for some support. Rich Gang are, I think, at this stage, the stronger team. They are the stronger team based on the sort of mechanical, but I feel like there is a ceiling given their current training regime before a team like Aztec can actually catch up. And obviously seeing Aztec and where they've been and where they've come to, now they've actually locked in a 5-man roster. I think for me, the reason I pitched them so high was because of that developmental phase. They are a team that should have the most growth, in my personal opinion, out of all of these teams to really try and make their mark and say, hey, we are a team now looking to barge into what is this 3-team clique. Rich Gang, I mean, myself and Strider, we both put them low, at least on my behalf. I think that was a lot of indecisiveness onto who was actually going to fit that 5th role. We now know it is Deceptive Smurf. So let's actually transition now into week number 3 and see how things have changed, which, well, for the most part, look at this. The top 4 unanimous across the board. The bottom 2 unanimous. But then 5th and 6th spot, Strider, this is where things start to get a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, look, Rich Gang played better this week for sure. But in my opinion, as I've said coming along, I think Aztec do have a ceiling. I think they're going to get better and better and better. These 2 other guys have had 2 weeks to really synergize with the other guys. Maybe it's just me playing too much early with Azog. But I do think that they're going to get better. Right now, I see Rich Gang could be the better team. I just think that they're not taking it serious enough yet. I think if they do start scrimming, and don't get me wrong, I think they need to, because they've got a real shot at competing against these top teams. Like, they should have beaten Outlaws. If they drafted better, if they didn't make these stupid mistakes, you could say, not banning the tier or even not doing a ban, they could be a lot higher, and they could have taken out Outlaws, and we could have had 2 upsets in 1 week, Crimson and Outlaws both going down. Unfortunately, maybe that professionalism for them isn't there yet, and they're lacking that little bit. But individually speaking, I think they can be a very strong team. I just think Aztec as a team are going to unify a bit better and really start pushing these high teams.
Same points for you as before there, Morton, going into week 2, or going from week 2 to week 3. You still got Rich Gang posted up pretty high. Also, we've all then put down for that 4th, given the upset, the entirely massive upset against Crimson, but Rich Gang still for you are flying that banner high.
Yeah. I think right now, Rich Gang are better than Aztec. As for downfall, I've moved them up to 4. At the start of the season, I've had downfall at 7, I think. And after that 2-0 upset against Crimson, I was copying a few memes, putting them at number 7. Kind of forced to put them at number 4. But after that performance, they definitely deserve to be in that number 4 spot. Whether they'll stay there, I don't think they will. I'm kind of hoping they do kind of find that consistency that they've been lacking, I feel. It'd be good to see how they perform against these. They got Nomia coming up, so be interesting to see how they do against them. The top Dolphins.
The top, I like it. He gets it right this time, Strider. This is the guy with skill.
He's learning.
He knows what buttons to press, would you say? Oh, dearie me. Well, those are our power rankings going into week number 3. Whether or not they will be true, that's what we're going to find out as our next segment coming up is the upcoming games for week number 3. So stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone, to week 2 of Good Call, Bad Call. This time we actually have a special guest, KJ, the tank player, the newest acquired member for the side of Crimson. He's going to be joining us for 10 quick-fire questions. KJ, how does it feel, first of all, to be on the show, and how are you looking forward to some of these questions? Are your arms sweaty, knees a wee bit weak? What are you feeling like?
I'm chilling, bro. You know me. I'm relaxed, ready to go. Ask away.
I mean, I see that your head is above water this time. It's not like this from those defeats on the other night. Let's just jump straight into the questions. First question, quick fire questions. There are no time for delays. First question off the board. Who is the best player in the scene currently?
Probably Ben, Fet94. Just a combination of experience, the amount of work he puts into the game, the time he plays, and the overall knowledge. And I also think the meta suits him at the moment. So you got heroes like Tracer, Chromie. He loves those heroes, and they're good. So,
what is the hero you want released the most?
Maybe like Pit Lord from Warcraft or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who do you look up to in your given role of tank?
Probably Tist from MVP Black or what are they called? KSV Black now.
KSV Black, yeah.
Yeah, Tist for me.
Here's a bit of a spoofy one. Who's your favourite e-girl in ANZ?
Oh, it's got to be my own missus. She can't.
I like it. A smart answer, mate. She needs to log on and play that quick match.
Yeah, safe answer.
Safe answer. What's the rattest hero in HOTS right now?
Fucking, there's 3 of them: Maeve, Tracer, and Chromie.
I'm going to need one, mate. I'm going to need one. Narrowed it down.
Go off the classic Chromie.
Classic Chromie. Who does like it? I mean, this one is a little bit conflicting. I mean, you give me your answer for who's your favourite e-girl, but how would you rate Morton out of 10? Would you swipe right on him?
Yep. Love him.
You would?
Good dude.
Out of 10?
Yeah, he's a big teddy bear cuddle up to his wee stomach, you know?
Oh, beautiful, mate. Big spoon, little spoon?
Yeah, I'm the big spoon.
What is the worst rank for you to play with? So imagine you're playing Hero League. It is a bit of a rainbow queue. What rank?
Diamond.
Diamond's the worst to queue with?
Yeah.
What's the reasoning behind that?
Because they think they know what they're talking about, but they're just shit.
What is your favourite major region team to watch?
Probably Dig at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
They're just revolutionising everything, really. So I like the way they draft. They draft shit that's not standard, so I like it.
If there was one given tip that you could give to anybody out there to improve and try and get to the level of you, what would that tip be?
Be harder on yourself. You're not always right.
Be more self-critical.
Mm-hmm.
Final question. Number 10 of all the quickfire questions. Are you going to beat Nomi this coming week?
Hopefully.
I need some decisiveness, KVA.
I can't say yet. We'll see how the day. I think we're very good teams, both of us. So it depends, if we show up on the day or not. And historically, these past 2 weeks, we haven't been that strong on our game day. So we'll see.
There we go. That is your 10 quickfire questions with guest KVA. His predictions are in the chat as well. So as you watch the show, be sure to see what we think and what he thinks. KVA, thanks for your time. Back with the show.
No worries. Thanks, guys.
It's week number 3 time, and with that, a brand new schedule, some new teams and some new games. And that's what we're going to be jumping into on Tuesday night, starting off with the first game, Outlaws up against Nekomimi. I don't want to be brutal, but I feel like this is a foregone conclusion between all of us that Outlaws, without a doubt, should win this game. If there's any struggles in the Outlaws department, I feel like you've really got to start questioning their certainty in that third spot there, Morton.
Yeah, Outlaws should be looking to take this out comfortably. I think Nekomimi are going to struggle to take any games, really, other than maybe against QM Warriors. They do obviously have Tildula coming in, so we'll see how he goes. Yep. But yeah, against number 3, very big ask. More to ask than Downfall taking out Crimson. But yeah, we'll just have to see how they go.
What about you, Strider? Any opinion on this one?
Yeah, I mean, Tildula coming in is going to be fun. I mean, was it something that Stumpy did with Penta? Penta's put the ban on her. She can't play anymore. Getting too much pressure. But I think Outlaws will clean this one. Obviously, they were looking a little bit shaky last week. If they were playing against someone a bit more competitive, I'd look at maybe going the other team because I was a little bit disappointed with their play last week. But Nekomimi, clean sweep 2-0, no dramas.
We didn't have Downfall up against the Quick Match Warriors. Now, this is an interesting one, right? Because you and me are both going for Downfall based on their Week 2 performance, how they were able to upset a team like Crimson. But Morton, with that beautiful smile you can already see in your webcam right there, believes otherwise. He feels as if he's kind of a god of some sort because he's gone Quick Match Warriors. And
the Messiah.
Yeah, he really has to be the Messiah. He's touched something in a non-sexual way to really understand Quick Match Warriors have this. So please enlighten us, oh Holy One.
Well, I'm gonna get memed hard for this one. I think we all know. But hey, if QM Warriors get the upset, I'm gonna look like a genius, mate.
Genius.
But, honestly,
or a retard.
Yeah, genius or a retard.
One of the two, bro. You can only go one way.
But yeah, I don't think the gap between QM Warriors and Downfall is that big. If Downfall play like they did against Crimson, I don't think there's any way they lose. But then again, that's the first time we've seen Downfall play that well. I don't know how consistent they are, right? QM Warriors, they're they're a solid bunch.
They're a solid bunch.
I like this.
Okay, yeah.
We've got this big top tier analysis on the desk right
man.
now. Tell me more, Morton.
I like to think they have the potential to take them out. We'll see. Maybe I'll give them some coaching myself this week. Yeah, give them a bit of a heads up on downfall.
No, I do agree. I mean, I still think Downfall's going to win. Don't get me wrong, but we've all been talking about it last week that QM Warriors could pull these games out. I think if they stop memeing, Tommy stops dying all these times. I've seen him here like dying 10 times in games. Poor fat. But if they just sit down, all 5 of them actually play and they get serious about it, they could win this game for 100%. And this is what I said last week. I think QM Warriors can take out some of these mid-ranked teams, even higher-ranked teams. I can't see it happening. I think you're going to be a retard when we come back next week.
Yeah, see you next Sunday.
See you next week, mate.
You might need to play some music to try and calm the pain and calm the nerves from that one there, Morton. But let's jump into the next one in what could almost be seen as a Bermuda Triangle of games. Quick Match Warriors then do take on Crimson. So if they feel like their game up against Downfall was tough, they're up against Crimson, which we've already seen the result of from week number 2. We've all said that Crimson, without a doubt, should win this one. And I would say there's a lot more certainty, at least for myself, that they should take this compared to Downfall beating Quick Match Warriors there, Morton.
Yeah, I think after last week against Downfall, Crimson, they're just going to go back to basics. Play basic comfort stuff against these kind of lower tier teams. Nothing risky. There's no point, right? They can just play their mages, play their comfort picks, and just don't risk it. Yeah, I think after last week, they shouldn't really get bamboozled by any of these lower tier teams again. So yeah, Crimson should take this 2-0, I think.
Yeah, preparation. And I remember chatting to you earlier in the week, Skimmy. Caver went out, had hands on his face, pressure was on, wouldn't speak to his girlfriend. So, mate, if he drops a game to Quick Match Warriors, he's probably getting kicked out the house. You're in the ensuite now, mate.
I mean, I'll probably be looking at Facebook, seeing that currently single status stuff. But like, mate, there's always a bed right behind me, bro. You can spoon me all night long, but
come snuggle up.
Let's snuggle up. I'll shoutcast you to sleep. It's almost like a bedtime story gone wrong. But I mean, on a serious note, yeah, I feel like Crimson should win this. I feel like we were talking before, Strider, about the preparation as to how these teams at the top 3, at least, have a very Western clash meta, and how this can then be very different to the lower league teams where they have comfort picks as a major factor. Given we are a minor region, we can't all invest hours upon hours like, your North American or European players to really try and compete and understand. So if they do get bamboozled by your Pocket Zagara, your Zul, your Asmodon, and think like, well, crap, like we don't have enough early game pressure. He's just going to dunk the globes and we're just going to look like, a bottom tier team on stream.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what happened. So hopefully it doesn't happen again. In my eyes, obviously I see a lot of it. Morton sees a bit of it as well. I'm sure you see it sitting over Caver's shoulder when he's screaming. This will not happen. This is going to be a clean sweep. I think they're going to pull out a bit of wrath from last week. And QM Warriors are going to feel it. So
right. Let's jump into then Thursday night. So back-to-back, obviously 2 nights of action for the ANZ HGC. Aztec versus Rich Gang. Now, this is the big one for us, right? We've all pitched this as 5th and 6th spot. I can see myself, Morton, both have gone for Rich Gang. But in Strider, I see the colors of Aztec, and then I see the words Rich Gang LOL. Now, don't call me a middle-aged lady, but I don't believe that LOL stands for lots of love. Can you just please explain this a little bit further for me?
Well, Pesky's on that team, right?
Oh, she is?
Some people got to love her in the scene. No, I do think, as I said earlier, Aztec got a lot to improve. Rich Gang, if they play the way they did last week, they're going to win it. I was on the fence with this one. Right. I do think Rich Gang will win, but anything could happen. I think it's going to be a 2-1, and I think Rich Gang get game 3. They're not going to make the mistake as they did last week and not ban that Tyrrell out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Rich Gang look comfortable against Outlaws, and then we saw Aztec struggling a bit against QM Warriors. So I think right now, Rich Gang should take this comfortably. In the future, second round matchup, I think it could be quite different.
I think just looking at the schedule for Thursday alone, these are some of the best matches we've actually seen in this league so far. I mean, the discussion between Aztec and Rich Gang, this really springs to mind of skill setting for Rich Gang given the mechanical prowess versus the development side of Aztec. How far can they come in such a short time? We talked about it before, Lucker and Domi only being on the team for 2 weeks. How far have they improved in a 1 week period alone? And I think this series, in my opinion, should be a best of 3 at least to try and really duel it out between the two and what kind of preparation has gone into taking away picks and bans. Like we talk about, say, Fesh, for example, a team like Outlaws, they ban away his Tracer multiple times and say, look, we are just going to target you, much like I would like to start seeing teams target Downfall and take away the Stukov. So I feel like it's really going to sort of showcase, this 5th, 6th spot that we predicted, actually how close things are. But then the next match, the big behemoth, so to speak, this is what we've really looked forward to. Teams 1 and 2, Nomiya up against Crimson. This should be the highlights of the season this far to really understand. Obviously, Nomiya so dominant, have absolutely crushed every single game they've had so far. Crimson have looked shaky, but even in my initial predictions, I've said this is a team that have a support network behind them, the experience behind them as well to actually justify it. And based on scrim results alone, Strider, this is something that's been very 50-50.
Yeah, obviously, I think Crimson are probably the only team that can take games off Nomiya at the moment. I have picked them. Obviously, I've seen the scrims and it is 50-50, and I think Crimson play this meta against Nomiya better. And don't say that the other team's doing cheese or anything. I just think these guys play a very similar style. Mm-hmm. And because they play together so much, it could go either way. I think it is going to probably go to 3 games, and I wouldn't be surprised if Nomiya do have a quick 10-minute game, but then Crimson stabilize and take it to late game and win the other ones.
Sure.
So 2-1 Crimson. Let's hope that happens, eh?
For your sake.
I hope so.
For
your sake, at least.
Yeah.
For your sake, man. You'll have to wake up with him.
Or for my sake, absolutely. But I mean, for your sake as well, right? Because otherwise, you're going to be whipping those boys into shape. It's not going to be a pretty picture.
No, it's not. It's not going to be pretty at all.
Morton, any words on this one? Obviously, yourself and I have gone for the Nomiya train based on consistency alone. Any points that you'd like to then push further as a result?
Not really. I mean, like, what we really do have to kind of go off of are the official games, right? We've seen Nomiya. They've been super clean. Like, they played Outlaws early on. They looked really good against the 3rd seed team. We've seen Crimson lose to Downfall. They looked shaky against even Aztec. They didn't look that clean. So even if scrims are going 50-50, I think we kind of have to go for Nomiya here just from the consistency. But on the other hand, I also would not be surprised if Crimson do take it out and show up on the day with proper preparation.
It is one of those talking points, right, where teams can get very invested into scrim results and saying, look, but we went 17-0 in scrims, but then we get smashed on a day. What is going wrong? And obviously, there's so many different factors and reasonings behind that, but I feel like you definitely have certain players or teams that just show up on the day, whether that be online, in LAN, or just any kind of competitive setting. There's a certain atmosphere that is then cultivated, right? So I would like to imagine that Nomiya, with the experience and the understanding, and especially those 2 new players that have a lot to prove to try and justify the Nomiya brand, should come out with this one. But at the end of the day, like you guys have both said, a best of 3 series should be the expectation, which then leads into our next match. Nomiya up against Downfall. Now, I'm really looking forward to seeing what Downfall can do. After they took out Crimson in a convincing, mind you, 2-0 fashion, how does their style of play go up against the likes of Nomiya? We talk about meta, we talk about styles of play, we talk about how they were so reacting in the counter picks they had, but that hasn't swayed our decision-making in this one whatsoever there, Strider.
Yeah, look, Nomiya don't lose this game. There's no way. Nomiya are going to lose to these teams. They're going to draft.
Is that what we said when they versed Crimson last week, though? I feel like we probably
True.
No way
True.
Crimson loses.
Where is the bus being dropped right now?
I mean,
oh my.
Look, to be honest, I think now that Crimson were the unlucky ones to get that, all right, they got out-drafted. And maybe Nomiya's got that experience. Their drafting is a little bit better, you could say. I don't know. But they're going to ban the Stukov. They're not going to have any problems with this one. They're not going to get those kind of one tricks that they're going to expect or try to get Downfall at least. And Nomiya, their hero pool's way bigger. So, and they play the maps better. Like, when we went over the replays last week, how clean did they look? It's going to be an easy one. 2-0. Could be 2-0 Downfall. I don't know.
We'll have to see, mate.
That is a decision I don't ever want to hear from you again. You need to stick to your guns there, Strider.
No, 100%. Nomiya, easy.
Yeah, I think Nomiya will have learnt from Crimson's mistakes. Don't underestimate your opponent. Prepare for every opponent. Look at their comfort picks. We've said multiple times, Shrek Stukov. We saw how big it was against Crimson. Nomiya, I wouldn't be surprised if they were first banning it, honestly. Yeah, we'll have to see. I don't think Nomi would drop a game, to be honest.
I think they're a team strong enough with the amount of hero repertoire they have, as you touched on briefly there, Strider, to say, cool, we take away your Stukov. You can have a meta hero which is considered OP because we have our own OP heroes, so we have our own synergies which can, in some capacity, outdraft that, right? So I feel like Nomi definitely should get the 2-0, which then leads us into the final match of week number 3, which sees Outlaws pitched up against Aztec in what should be, once again, another real affirmation of where do Outlaws sit. They've been sitting pretty at third spot for quite a while now, but they have had some shaky results against teams where we're thinking, how does this one go? Now, I suppose the interesting talking point for me with this one is Aztec, earlier in that night, will be versing Rich Gang, a team that Outlaws struggled against in a 2-1 series, which could have arguably been 2-1 to Rich Gang. So based on that alone, I've still gone head on heart, right, and said Outlaws should take this one. But you yourself, Strider, have said that, Aztec, the money's there. They should have a fair chance at this.
Look, I don't think it's as retarded as I'll bring it back of the QM Warriors pick. But we'll I think after, Aztec are going to lose to Rich Gang earlier in the night, but I think it's going to be closer than they expect. And they've got a lot to prove. I keep saying a lot to prove.
Right. I've heard it a few times.
Yeah, we're getting there. But this is the one they could take. Outlaws are coming in. They haven't played a game all night. They looked really not clean last week. Aztec are going to be coming in warm. They're going to have a lot to prove because they're dropping so many games. They're not winning many. And this could be one that they could take. If Outlaws play like they did last week, Aztec could take this one 2-1.
Yeah. Morton? I think Outlaws are kind of, even on a bad day, I think they're still too good for Aztec to take them out right now. Aztec just haven't really impressed me yet. I mean, I agree with you that I think they have a lot of potential. I've worked with a few of them, like they have a lot of drive, but right now I don't think they have the skill level to take out Outlaws, to be straight up honest.
Big calls from the boys here on the panel, which then sums up our predictions going into week 3. Correlating that to our power rankings, we will find out next week on episode 3 of Good Call, Bad Call whether we are boosted animals or we actually know what we're talking about to justify 3 men being on cameras, pretending to have a virtual studio and doing stuff like this to try and tickle Morton and make sure he doesn't cough himself to sleep.
I did have a point in there. I was just thinking about this. Obviously, Aztec, right? They've got these 2 new players, and I think they came into the season with quite a bit of hype. They had Hacky on their team who just got a BlizzCon, and there was probably an expectation that they were going to be a top team. They were going to be in this region or this realm that Namia, Crimson, Outlaws are in.
Right.
If we go outside that picture and say Hacky made it in now with his new team, Pleb to Pro, where do you guys think they would sit on the power ranking? Morton?
I'm putting them 3rd, 4th, honestly. Honestly, even with the potential to break into the top 2, I would not be.
This is based on current standings. Are we thinking down the way?
I'm thinking down the way, to be honest.
Down the way, okay.
Yeah, because we have Vikarak, who's moved on to a new role from solo lane to main tank. They've picked up Mitzi, who's got very limited competitive experience. He's fairly new to HOTS in general, but he's a very good mechanical player who's also learning a new role in solo lane. So sure. I mean, in 2-3 months, when after they've qualified, I think they're going to be probably same level of Outlaws, possibly better. But
we'll have to pull the pin here and say right now they're in the scene. Say Nekomimi don't make it.
Yeah.
Where are they sitting after 2 weeks?
So if they were
on your power ranking right now, yeah.
I would say probably a little bit lower than Rich Gang, I think. Just because.
So what?
So that would be 6th for me.
Okay. What about you, Strider?
Sorry, it'd be 5th because I think they'd be ahead of. No, they would be 6th because they'd be taking Nekomimi's spot, right? Ahead of Aztec, QM Warriors.
Yeah.
But competing with Rich Gang and Downfall.
I mean, I'd probably have them a little bit higher than that.
Yeah.
I'd kind of have them probably. I'd probably have them in that Downfall kind of spot, in that 4th between 3 and 5. I'd probably have them maybe 5th, just after Downfall, the way Downfall's been playing.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've only seen them in open ladder, and I mean, me and Morton have seen been getting killed by them. So
Yeah, we haven't just
if that's much to go off,
we've taken it from them.
We've taken it like
both weeks.
Thanks for that game. Start getting us both weeks against them.
Yeah, cheers, lads.
Cheers, guys. But I think they still sit up. I think if they were playing in the Premier League, they're going to be getting better. They're going to be scrimming against these better teams, and they could, push for these top spots. I think right now they probably sit fifth, though, in my eyes. Running through the roster, they're pretty strong. I mean, you've had a lot to do with the roster, Morton. What do you think individually as players in comparison to? I mean, you put them back. Why are they behind Rich Gang?
I think it's just the main thing is having Mitzi and Vikrek in new roles, right? Like I said, Mitzi hasn't actually really played competitive or proper competitive before, except for played on Nekamimi for a bit as ranged assassin. That kind of came to an end, and now he's playing solo lane, which is a completely different hero pool, completely different role. If he's going up against your Jesmez's, your Ryu's, even against Deceptive, because I think Deceptive is one of the best solo laners right now in ANZ, and he's coming up against Mitzi. I think Mitzi's going to struggle there. Then Vikrek, moving from solo lane to tank. Tank is such a huge role in any team. Yeah. I don't know if Vikrek can kind of stand up with the big boys, like you got your Penta, Caver, Icebold. With Flaze is fairly new to the role as well, so they're probably similar levels. Vikrek could possibly be better because, he's been competing since 2015, would you say, Skimmy?
We're talking about Vikrek, yeah?
Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah, he's been around a long time. He's like one of the old guard.
Yeah. And then obviously you have Hacky, who I think is one of the best ranged assassins in ANZ. At the end of last year, I said he was number one, and I was being 100% serious, and I think he showed it at the Sydney LAN. After kind of being shot caller for a while, I don't think he's got the mechanics that he did have, but I mean, nothing's stopping him from kind of getting back up to that power level that he had before. And then Moops, everyone knows Moops, but I don't think he's mechanically as good as some of the other supports in the region, but the leadership that he brings to a team, makes him such a valuable player. It's insane. A lot of people don't actually see it because a lot of what Moops does is kind of behind closed doors, right? Bringing people up mentally. He just the whole vibe he brings to a team is he makes the team believe they're the best. They don't doubt themselves, right? So yeah, I think Moops as a leader is just really, really good. And then they obviously have Physics as well, who's another highly experienced player. But yeah, I think with a solo laner and a tank that's not really experienced in their roles, they could struggle, I think, against the Downfall and Rich Gang.
I think, where would I put them? I feel like I want to agree really with Strider in that 3rd to 5th, but I feel like I'd put them a little bit lower, giving them the benefit of the doubt that they are going to be the team that are versing weaker teams at this stage. Whether or not they are actually able to scrim the Premier teams, I don't have that information on hand, but I would say based on where my predictions are at this stage, I'd be looking 5th to 6th. I feel like Downfall would be the gatekeeper in this situation based on how strong they are up against teams like Crimson. I feel like time will tell. If we can see what the results are of this week and how Crimson and Downfall can perform against the likes of Nomia, I feel like that will then give us a better prediction going into episode 3 as to, in this hypothetical situation, where would Pleb to Pro go. And I think leading back to your point slightly about the whole Moop situation, I feel like it draws parallels between a game like HOTS as well as CSGO, where generally speaking, your in-game leader might not be the most mechanically gifted or the strongest fragger, but they bring that element which can't be bought, it can't be taught. It's something that you just innately have as a quality in your personality, right? And
yeah, for sure.
I feel like this mental warfare is a massive discussion point for another time, but it's definitely a case of he's on the ball, able to empower his teammates. And it was a big component as to why Hacky actually left to take that sacrifice to join what was known as Mickey Mouse Clubhouse at the time and say, look, I need to be back with my old leader because I don't believe I have the traits to pop off and do my role when I had this extra shoulder weight and pressure to hold as a burden, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think Hacky kind of realized that he's like, I'm the experienced one. I've been to BlizzCon. I'll just create a new team. I'll shot call them because I have all the knowledge. And when it came down to it was kind of like, okay, so I'm trying to play your Li Mings, your Chromies, your Kel'Thuzards, trying to get these big pop-off moves, but then at the same
Yeah.
time, I'm also trying to micromanage a lot of my team, make macro calls, and it's really just so struggling. So like when you get a player like Moops who can shot call and play his role fairly consistently well, then
I mean, Skimmy actually makes me think it brings a pretty similar comparison to what you were doing when you were playing professionally, right? You were the shot caller.
Right.
You did play ranged assassin, right?
I played ranged assassin as well, and I can definitely empathize with what Haki's saying, right? I feel like it's one of the hardest roles, in my opinion anyway, to try and shot call from, because you are going to be at times be very, I don't want to say unengaged, but you're looking to try and peel and kite back, and you don't have the full grand scheme of the fight, so to speak. Look, you're looking for that 1v1, you're looking for that kill, and I feel like players such as, your Moops or your tanks, when they are in a capacity like such to then dictate, because I feel like tank and support really are the most impactful roles in this game. If you can find a good player on that, definitely that alone is better than anybody that can just click a few buttons and get a kill. So the situation with us when I was playing an XL5, we had KVA back then as the tank. He was definitely one that said, look, I can engage, I can do this. This guy's out of position, let's go. And I would be very, very vocal in that result. And I feel like, much like you kind of described Moops, I was kind of like that empowerer, that person that was kind of like trying to band everyone together. We were a bunch of mates. It's a big component as to why we stuck or stayed together for, a year and a bit.
Yeah.
But then we had Ninja, which, he was kind of like what we called the voice of reason. If KVA made a bad call, he'd be like, that sucks, don't do that, we're doing this. And I feel like it's interesting to have a shot caller for micro and a shot caller for macro. And this is, obviously, you're not going to find this in every team, but I feel like it added a degree of responsibility for everyone. So you couldn't just sit there, be silent, turn up, not feel the need to train. It's just like, I click some buttons, I get told how to do everything. Because, if we're going to start calling out names, right, I guarantee there is a player in every single team, maybe even more, in every single team that just has no game sense, has no real understanding. They just have, all right mechanics. And as a result, they can fit into a team. And I don't want to try and call Haki out if we're going to be following this wavelength and say he just sucks unless he's with Moops. That's not the call at all. But I feel like there's definitely certain characters that may not be mechanically gifted, but then make it up for in other ways to feed the team as a whole. So I think it's a very interesting discussion point. I'm sure one that we can talk about at great length on another show or another time. But that pretty much does it really for week 3 in our upcoming games, what we have to look forward to and where we think teams should really be pitched at. But now is the all-important time. This is time for us to jump into some replays. Really, if you are a viewer at home, struggling in your Hero League games, really understanding how do I grow from where I am right now, maybe that be gold, platinum, what does it take to be diamond and beyond, and how do I make it into a competitive circuit? Well, that's what we're going to discover. We're going to be cracking some of the most defining moments in all of the games that took place in week number 2 for your viewing pleasure. So this is a very defining moment in this series between Crimson and Outlaws. Outlaws need to try and make some form of advantage take place here. The scoreboard, 0-0, and they recognize that 4 members of Crimson are up in that top lane. So I like this shot call. They have the global of the Brush Stalker available to them, and they have 4 members in the lower half of this map. So this is fantastic. They have the poke of a Junkrat. They have the sieging PvE potential that a Greyman can bring. So they begin this boss. And as we unroll this clip, you're going to see exactly how this pans out. Well, really against him ultimately, as Jesmez scouts out valuable information for his team to react and respond to. Really, when you're talking about boss control, you're trying to consider what things do we have, what tools do we have in our arsenal to really control this point. And ultimately, for the side of the Outlaws, they need to try and find some value between the entangling roots as well as this concussion mine. A lot of this pressure really is on Coffee to try and turn things around. Now, you'll see the collapse comes around. The root comes out very early on as KVA tries to almost feign a dive on that right-hand side. Whilst Gondo, I was very critical of him on this map last week up against Nomiya, saying he was far too defensive in how he approached these ganks. This time, far too aggressive. He dives deep on the left, leaving his team in a bit of a predicament, thinking, well, how do we get to him? We absolutely cannot. And with Jesmus being situated nicely in that bottom section of your screen right there, he can collapse on in. And it's the beginning of the end, as you'll see Crimson come in for the kill. This forces the 4v5 situation, and now Crimson really have the upper hand. What have we got? Bunker, Mosh Pit, Repulsion Zone, and the Odin at that as well. Now, a bit of desperation coming at here. Still, the Entangling Roots is gone. Concussion Mine does not find the value that they are after. Iceball getting very desperate, looking to try and flip and deter and do whatever he can with a taunt, but he's just going to get taken out for free. 2 kills just like that are picked up, a boss as well, and it blew this series wide open in favor of Crimson. So here we have in the exact same series a late game scenario, right? Level 20 across the board. And this is Dahaka trying to utilize his global pressure in what you'd imagine to be a favorable situation. The only catch to that is Outlaws right now are caught in the bottom lane, looking to try and clear out these minions. The catapults are pushing against them because they have not a single keep left. And once again, there is that eye in the sky. You got Altivian in the bush scouting out this information. So as the clip unfolds, you're going to see once again how a choke point can be the downfall of so many teams. KVA coming on straight through, looks to isolate Lahal, fantastic by that one, he gets flipped across, then the throw ally! Icebolt chucks his own teammate literally into the fountain, not the fountain that heals you. Gondo comes through that at the same time as well, so he's going to get body blocked in. Now it becomes a bit of a skill matchup between both Icebolt and KVA, but Lahal being locked in place like that makes it so easy for Azure on Ling Ming to pinpoint accurately assign his skill shots to come on through as this clip unfolds. Not to mention the big red button comes down as well. Just like that. Good night, Sweet Prince. One is gone, and now they're looking for the second one. Icebolt, not much he can do here. The back line is dead. The front line is just taking heavy damage. Icebolt falls, Gondo as well. And it just shows you that, you know, these split-second decisions, the psychological factors of a late game when your back is against the wall, not a single keep left, you have to win a team fight. And the mental aptitude this plays on a team really kind of, I suppose, really describes it in a clip like such. Because this ultimately allows Crimson to win the game. The next series of the night, we saw Rich Gang taking on Outlaws in a series that went the full best of 3. 2 very different team compositions. And a lot of eyes were on Rich Gang as Fesh got his coveted Tracer. Now let's have a look at these 2 very different team compositions. What really stands out for me right now, in ANZ especially, is the lack of teams drafting mages. Mages in particular will do so much work against a lot of these compositions. And I argued this point before because Tyrael did not get banned during the draft. The ban was actually missed. But you'll see from this alone, Tyrael will eventually, as this game progresses on, start to carry. This composition of Outlaws is very much protect the Greymane. They act like a prison squad. Tracer comes in like a Venus flytrap. She gets sucked in and cannot escape. And as you watch the clip, as it unfolds, you're going to see Fesh desperately looking for a pick, but just under so much pressure to perform, and it all comes crumbling apart. The Howling Blast goes across. Deuces is there looking to try and complement Jim Jam there with the blinds. Is looking pretty good so far, but Icebolt does get that biotic heal. They come across. The Pulse Bomb gets dropped, but does not connect at the same time. Gondo is now going to look to try and turn things around. They lock people up. The power of Maiev is just too strong. Fesh is zoned. Coffee can just look to try and take him out for free. If not, he's zoned. Jim Jam is gone as well. Mobility, CC, protection. The janitor is here and is a cleanup in R3. So let's have a look. Two very different team compositions here. The burden of execution really is in the court right here for Crimson. They've got a lot of cooldowns. I mean, let's look at these ultimates, right? You've got Sanctification, Warden's Cage, Divine Shield, Cocoon, even Go for the Throw. All these ultimates have to find value, and they have to find it fast. The window with which they can operate within is a very short amount of time. And as we roll the clip, we're going to see exactly how this does unfold. Obviously, they are going to be fighting on this Khazra camp. They want to fight in a close quarter to really utilize both the Sanctification and the Warden's Cage. But the turnaround from Downfall is something majestic. You can see KVA coming in here looking to try and scout out. Now he's going to want to look to try and get a good cocoon off to try and prevent out one of these ultimates. He's going to choose to go on Superfish, make sure that the bunker can't be used, a big deterrence. But there's the Sanctification. Now pausing it right here is a good point to try and assess why was Sanctification used. Now an argument could be made that they did it to prevent Shrek from using the flailing arm. This composition of Crimson, 5 members, all pile driven into that one small choke point. They're all finding value with the Sanctification. And if the flailing arm comes out, that disrupts everything. But as we unfold the clip, as we play it on, you're going to see once that window is finished, things start to go downhill. Yes, they pick up the kill, but the Riptide with the 4-man explosion followed by the Ball Lightning. When you're in close quarters, it works for one team, but it damn near well works for the other team as well. 3 kills picked up, easy peasy, and Divine Shield couldn't even be used. Nothing that the Shadow could do there on Uther in that situation.